His name was Cale Windrider. At 25, he was the swiftest arrow in the Comanche wind, his lithe frame etched with the tattoos of a warrior who spoke to eagles. Born under a harvest moon on the endless plains of Texas, Cale's eyes held the color of mesquite smoke, deep, unyielding, carrying the weight of a people pushed to the edge of oblivion. He rode with the Quahati Band, guardians of the sacred canyons, where the earth whispered secrets to those who listened. Cale was no chief, but his heart beat like thunder for his kin, fierce and untamed. She was Elowin Hawthorne. 19 summers had painted her with the soft gold of frontier sunsets, her auburn curls escaping bonnets like wild vines reclaiming a garden. Daughter of Colonel Harlan Hawthorne, the iron-fisted commander of Fort Valor, Elowin was a melody in a world of drums, educated in Boston parlors, yet drawn to the wild whispers of the prairie. She sketched wildflowers in her journal, dreaming of a life beyond the fort's barbed wire heart, where love wasn't rationed like ammunition. It was the summer of 1874, when the red earth cracked like old wounds under the relentless Texas sun. Tensions simmered like a pot about to boil over, treaties shattered like brittle bones, and the Army's blue coats pressed ever closer to Comanche lands. Colonel Hawthorne led the charge, his mustache a stern brushstroke above lips that spat orders like lead. Civilize or perish, he'd declare at mess hall suppers, while Elowin slipped away to the river's edge, her fingers trailing the water's silver thread. Fate tangled them on a crimson dusk, when raiders, not Comanche, but desperate Kiowa driven to madness by starvation, struck the fort's supply wagons. Gunfire cracked the air like lightning, horses screaming as bullets found flesh. Elowin, riding out against her father's edict to fetch wild herbs for the fort's ailing cook, found herself enhorsed in the chaos, her mare crumpling under a stray shot. She tumbled into the dust, ankle twisting sharp as a serpent's bite, the world blurring into shouts and shadows. The Kiowa closed in, their faces painted with war ochre, knives glinting like accusations. Elowin scrambled back, heart a frantic bird against her ribs, her cries lost in the wind. "Papa," she gasped, but the colonel was miles away, rallying troops. Death rode toward her on moccasined feet. Then, from the arroyo like a storm unleashed, came Cale. He had been tracking the Kiowa for days, his band's scouts whispering of their desperate raid. No glory in this hunt, only mercy for foes turned ghosts by white hunger. But when he crested the ridge, bow drawn, he saw her, the pale flower in calico, cornered and fierce, green eyes flashing defiance even as terror etched her face. Cale loosed an arrow that sang through the air, felling the lead raider without a sound. He leapt from his paint pony, a blur of buckskin and braided raven hair, knife flashing as he danced through the fray. Two more fell to his blade, their blood soaking the sage like sacrificial rain. The last Kiowa turned tail, vanishing into the twilight haze. Elowin stared, breath ragged, as Cale knelt before her, not as conqueror, but as shadow made flesh. "You saved me," she whispered, voice trembling like aspen leaves. Her hand reached out, unthinking, brushing the feather in his hair. It was soft, alive with wind's memory. Cale's gaze met hers, and in that suspended breath, worlds collided. He signed slowly, hands graceful as river reeds, the wind carries the lost home. He didn't know her tongue, but his eyes spoke volumes, curiosity laced with caution, a spark in the gathering dark. He lifted her onto his horse, her body light against his chest, her scent of lavender and fear mingling with his of sage and sweat. They rode not to the fort, but to a hidden spring in the canyon's embrace, where his band waited like vigilant stars. There, under a canopy of cottonwoods, Elowin learned his name through gestures and the universal language of firelight. Cale bound her ankle with cool moss and strips of his own shirt, his touch steady, reverent. She traced the scars on his arms, stories of battles not for land, but for the soul of the earth. Days blurred into stolen sunrises. Elowin should have fled back to the fort's wooden cage, but the canyon held her like a lover's vow. She taught Cale fragments of English over shared pemmican. "Hope," she'd say, pressing his palm to her heart. He replied in Comanche, voice a low rumble like distant buffalo, "NM, the people." Laughter came easy, then touches, fingers lingering on wrists, shoulders brushing in the fire's glow. One moonlit night, as cicadas hummed a serenade, Cale cupped her face, his thumb tracing her lip. "Elowin," he murmured, her name a prayer on his tongue. Their kiss was wildfire, tender, consuming, tasting of forbidden rivers. Word reached Fort Valor like poison in the well. A scout spotted her calico dress fluttering from a canyon ledge. Colonel Hawthorne's rage was a tempest. He mobilized the 9th Cavalry, drums beating war into the dust. "That savage defiles my blood," he thundered, posterizing her as abducted innocent, though her journal, left behind, sang of choice. Telegrams flew to Washington, treaties teetered. The army massed on the plains, cannons glinting like accusatory eyes, ready to raise the Quahati to ash for one woman's heart. Cale's people gathered in council, faces grim as thunderheads. "She brings the blue storm," elders warned. But Cale stood unbowed, his voice cutting the smoke. "Love is not theft, it is the river that carves canyons. I will not chain her, nor let chains claim her." Eowyn learned of the muster at dawn, a messenger bird from the fort, her father's seal on a scrap of paper, "Return, or blood will flow." Tears carved paths down her cheeks as she saddled a pony, but Cale met her at the canyon mouth, his hand outstretched. "Go," he said, voice cracking like dry earth. "But know the wind remembers." She spurred toward the fort, heart a hollow drum, only to wheel back at the treeline. Gunfire erupted, soldiers cresting the ridge, mistaking shadows for hostiles. Bullets whined like vengeful spirits. In the melee, Eowyn rode straight into the fray, her cry piercing the din, "Stop! He is no enemy." Colonel Hawthorne yanked his reins, face ashen as she threw herself between lines, arms wide like a living treaty. "Papa, he saved me, from raiders, from fear, from this cage you call safety. His heart is my home." The colonel faltered, saber lowering, as Cale emerged from the rocks, unarmed, hands raised in peace. No words passed, only eyes, father to warrior, across the chasm of history. In that fragile truce, Harlan saw not a savage, but a mirror, a man who would burn the world for his daughter's light. The regiment stood down, cannons silenced by a single truth. No war ignited that day, instead, a fragile accord bloomed. Comanche scouts guiding army patrols, shared waters in drought. Eowyn and Cale wed under canyon stars, her vows in English, his in Comanche, the wind bearing witness. Years wove them like river reeds, children with smoke-gray eyes and auburn braids, stories blending buffalo hunts with fort dances. Colonel Hawthorne, graying at the temples, visited with grudging smiles, teaching his grandsons chess by firelight. In the end, love didn't start a war, it quenched one. On the plains where empires clashed, two souls proved that the bravest battles are fought not with arrows but with open hands. And in the whisper of the wind, their story endures, a reminder that hearts, once saved, can save nations. Thank you for watching this story till the end. Sparkles. If it touched your heart, please support us. Thumbs up, give it a like. Speech balloon, share your thoughts in the comments. Bell, subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. Your support helps us create more stories that inspire and make you believe in miracles. Your participation means a lot to us.